A big hello and a very warm welcome to Brand Equity with me, Sonali Krishna. Today I'm sitting at Mondelez India, which is the country's biggest chocolate manufacturer. And interestingly, it's also its 75th anniversary in India. Well, in other news, this company has won over 200 external awards in India itself. And I have the pleasure to be joined by none other than the captain of the India ship, that's Deepak Iyer. Deepak, wonderful to meet you after 3 years in person. It's been quite a journey, hasn't it been?
Likewise, Sonali. It's a pleasure catching up with you 3 years and how the world has changed, isn't it? So, but anyway, it's a pleasure to be chatting with you in the very first few months of our 75th year in this amazing country. And there couldn't have been a better way to herald the year than the 200 awards that we won last year in marketing alone.
Absolutely. It's been a fantastic run for you, which is why this interview is so much more special than the others I've done. Having said that, before I came to interview you, I did a lot of research trying to figure out the tough questions I can throw at you. But unfortunately for me, and fortunately for you, only good things have been said about Mondelez, not just in India, but internationally. But let's dive back a little bit in time, and let's go into 2019, and the year that, let's say, the industry and Mondelez had in 2019. And I want you to just give me a perspective by juxtaposing 2019 vis-a-vis 2022, and how did those 2 years compare? I'm taking that as the base year because the others were, anomalies.
Yeah, absolutely. So, 2019, obviously we were in a good space. We were growing double digits, and that's how we had called it out to our investors and in our results as well. We did get through a little bit of hiccups during lockdown 1.0 because our category is out and about. It is indulgent. It is a little bit of impulse. So in those 6-8 weeks of lockdown, obviously our business took a knock. But it wasn't very long since we bounced back. So calendar year, Q3, Q4 2020, we started growing. Q4 2020, we were back to double-digit growths.
Okay.
And then we got knocked back a little bit during the Delta wave, which was 2 months of April, May of 2021. But ever since, we haven't looked back. So our trajectory is right back there. So even if I look at a 3-year CAGR, 22 to 19, actually our growth trajectory has only accelerated from the past. So if we're growing double digits, now we can say we're growing healthy double digits.
Sure. So would you say that COVID, barring that 2020 year, which was basically a harsh year for not just people, but also businesses, would you say COVID gave a boost to the categories that Mondelez operates in, simply because people were at home, working from home, discretionary spending wasn't happening as much as, pre-COVID era, people wanted some indulgence in their life. So would you say it was advantage Mondelez?
Absolutely. So if you look at the 3 big categories that we play in, one is chocolate confectioneries, the second one is biscuits, and third one is Bournvita, malted beverages, right? Each of them had a reason to succeed. So let's start with Bournvita, the easily intuitive one. Everybody was looking for safety and immunity.
Yeah. And
our product had that to deliver, right? And kids were at home. And the parents were really concerned about their health, right? So we obviously got a big lift, not just our brand, the entire category, right? 2, if you look at biscuits, it was the comfort snacking at home.
Yeah.
So, and it is also seen to be a little bit of a meal substitute, a little bit of a nicer way to, indulge yourself, etc. So the entire category of biscuits got a fillip. While we got chocolates was a little bit of a mixed bag. When we started in 2020, out and about consumption vanished. So it was a little bit of setback for us.
Yeah.
But once we came out of the lockdown, and the out and about, the mobility increased outside homes, is right back. Today it's one of our fastest growing categories. So we are very, very happy on where it is. And a lot of that also has to do to what you said, Snacking moved from just being snacking to a little bit of soulful snacking. It was not just physical, it was also your companion to give you comfort during the turbulent times of COVID at home, right? So that gave us a big fillip. And there's certain other tailwinds we had. So everybody started cooking at home, recipes. Now, there can't be a better ingredient than Oreo and Cadbury.
Yeah.
So if you look at the fillip that we got, in fact, when I was in Patna, I was speaking to a retailer. He said, "Sir, आपने ये recipe क्या launch किया है?" There are women who are actually buying this back home to take it during COVID for recipes. So Oreo, half the consumption, according to him, is for recipes.
Wow.
So we are so happy. This is in Patna. We're not talking about mainstream top metros, correct? But it was very, very useful. We actually launched our site called dessertscorner.com. where we have more than 300 recipes even today, 6-7 million consumers there, about how you can make recipes with chocolates.
Right, right.
So desserts and anything to do with that. So that's also been a very big boost for us. So overall, feeling happy sort of bouncing back so resiliently after this entire disruption?
Right. So I have a couple of rejoinders to that. Interesting that you say that even like a place like Patna is, people are looking at Oreo recipes. Interesting insight. This kind of, baking and doing stuff that was over and above your everyday chores and work came about in COVID. And we saw lots of like Dalgona coffee and what you have going viral on social media. But life is back to normal now. We're all back to the grind and we don't have that kind of bandwidth. Have you seen a decrease in that kind of behavior pattern and hence a slight dip in consumption? Because some of the retailers I was speaking with said that e-commerce got such a big boost during the COVID years. And the moment you had, your high street open up and generally your brick and mortar stores open up, the numbers are not as big as they saw. So are you seeing a similar pattern in FMCG?
Yeah, no, it's a very good point you make. Answer is no. Now, maybe a little bit of the cooking at home has come down, but let's take the example of e-commerce that you said, right? So for us, e-commerce actually in its original avatar, which was a marketplace or an e-grocer, actually lacked impulse consumption. So how do most of our products are impulse.
Okay.
So if you're shopping in a modern trade, traditional trade, or you have this in your fridge, you feel hungry, you feel like treating yourself, want to have a bite, you can easily have a chocolate. How do you do that impulse in digital? But came quick commerce, came the last milers, right? Came all the food tech operators who were delivering at home in 15, 20 minutes.
Yes.
Suddenly they solved for us the entire concept of digital impulse. So I can order today in quick commerce and I can have it at my doorstep 15, 20 minutes away. So that's another reason, there's one more tailwind for us and one more gallop, right? So something gives, there's always puts and takes, something gives, something comes to your rescue. So overall, we're happy with the mix. So recipe and home baking may have gone down a bit, but surely better than pre-COVID days. So that still stays as one of the residual benefits of COVID. But then some other things have come to the fore. As people started going out, the out and about consumption has gone up.
So give me a sense, Deepak, now as we stand today in 2023, what is the kind of split you're looking at when you look at e-com, retail, quick commerce? What are the other areas?
Traditional trade, modern trade. Okay, so one thing that we're now beginning to realize is the consumer is shopping seamlessly between online and offline. So this entire thing of physical, digital has become phygital. You search somewhere, you buy somewhere.
Even for chocolates?
So because now e-commerce, I told you, digital impulse is cracked. So you can almost get it anywhere you want. And look at the way the retailers are reorganizing themselves. They're no longer only brick and mortar or only e-commerce players. Everybody has an online and offline. So the way we are now looking at it, what is traditional trade, which is classic mom and pop stores, the kirana shop next to us, the food store next to us, which is, let's say, 80%. And 20% is omnichannel. So in that, the consumer is moving seamlessly between, quick commerce to marketplaces, to groceries, to modern trade, right? So we started looking at that as one bucket. So the way we restructured our organization, we no longer have a vertical for modern trade and e-commerce. We have one vertical for omnichannel.
And that contributes 20%.
20%, 80% is traditional trade. So, ballpark, I'm giving an approximate estimate.
Yeah, sure. So the kirana guys are still ruling the roost.
In fact, they got a fillip during COVID because everybody wanted a home delivery.
Yes.
Everybody wanted to gravitate to contactless shopping, right? And they were in the best position. The neighborhood, they knew the people, they could deliver at home, and So actually, they were in many ways a savior of so many people who were in containment zones, right? So they came right back into reckoning. Think of them not as traditional trade stores. Think of them as a convenience store in an evolved market, right? So, and that's the role they play. They play the role of a convenience, smaller assortment, give it to you at home. I won't give you discounts, but it's a top-up basket. You go and buy your main thing from the marketplace or from a hypermarket.
Absolutely. They smartened up. They have their own WhatsApp group. You can text, you can text them your list. They bring it as fast as a Zepto or a Instamart or or the other players in that category. So they were smartened up too. Having said that, suddenly, there's a lot of talk about D2C, right? And I see a lot of companies, what they're sold, actually investing in it. I'm always confused about this because does that really work? Like, let's say I want to buy myself a Cadbury Silk. Won't I go to an aggregator versus going to, let's say, your D2C site and purchasing it. And this for every other category that I utilize.
Yeah.
Isn't it a bit over-optimistic to think that every consumer will go to that particular company's site and buy their products?
Right.
What do you think?
Well, it's a very good question, and you actually gave a part of the hint for the answer. So if you look at it, what is the reason to go there? I think that should be the fundamental one, right?
Exactly.
So let's take a look at our Cadbury Joy deliveries. So why should a consumer come there, right? So we are trying to give them a personalized experience on gifting. So it's not just the Cadbury bar or the silk bar I'll give you. You can print a message on the pack. We'll take a nice bar which is wrapped as it is, lay it with a carton wrap. You can print a picture. You can send a message. You can just write a text in that, and we'll have a personalized offering delivered to whoever you want to gift it to,
and
or to yourself. I will ship it. So the proposition has to be more than any other retailer. Otherwise, why would they come to my shop, right?
Yeah.
So, and our proposition can't be pricing, because then I'm being unfair to my retailers, right?
Yeah.
So our whole proposition is personalization.
But obviously, you will charge a premium for the personalization.
It is, yes. So it is charged. So there is a premium on that, a premium for delivery, a premium for personalizing the message, and a premium for the convenience. Yeah.
So my question is there a big enough market for players such as yourselves?
Small today, evolving.
Evolving.
Yeah. So what you can't do is ignore it. But what we don't expect it to be is a huge portion of our business in a very short time.
But the presence is required.
Presence is required. Also, is the other role that a D2C does is, see, we understand a shopping or a shopper's journey or a customer's journey or a consumer's journey in a physical world. We don't understand it yet on a digital world. So one other thing that these D2C sites like Joy Deliveries gives us is a huge understanding of how does the consumer or the shopper shop in digital. In physical world, we know they come to the shop. You need to keep a display at that place. Yeah. They'll look for price. They'll look for brand. They will look for the pack size. They will look for count lines or look for tablets. So there's a nice decision hierarchy that's established in the consumer's mind, which we understand well.
Right.
In the digital world, we are learning. We know it reasonably well, but we don't know it as well as this. Now, when you mix this in a physical world, how does the consumer's journey seamlessly move between a digital and a physical world is something that a D2C can really help you with.
And have you got any insights through studying that at the moment?
Oh, yes. So, and this is a journey. Okay, let's say a D2C, a digital consumer behaves very differently in a quick commerce than in a marketplace, than to a e-grocer. You go to a quick commerce for a quick delivery. You go to e-grocer because you know what you're going to buy. You go to a marketplace to search for those remote items which you don't get anywhere else, right? So each one of them has a role to play. Yeah, so you will find that in some of them, our gifting portfolio is outsized, or it's really a very big share of the business. In some others, the regular are share of business. Some others, like quick commerce, the smaller packs are the share of business. Yeah, so each one has a role. So,
and the consumer understands that it is playing accordingly.
Consumer doesn't need to understand. She or he will just look at their convenience. So they don't
but every
think
time
so much.
if there is a convenience to me, there's also a charge attached to it.
Yes, there should be value in that convenience. So when you're giving any consumer, him or her, a value addition, right? There's a price attached to it, right?
Right.
And that price equation she won't ever cross. So you just need to play the game within that, and then assess for yourself, does it make a good business sense to be there?
Coming to the three categories you talked about, chocolates, give me a sense of how you've been doing, in terms of your chocolates, your premium category, and of course your mass category, and also the fact that since we are still not really a chocolate consuming market, what is the kind of impetus you're trying to give the market to consume more?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So where we are on chocolates, like I said, we were growing double digits pre-COVID. Now we are growing healthy double digits. So obviously the trajectory has improved for the reasons we just spoke about.
Our per capita chocolate consumption would be at the moment?
So around 130, 150 grams. That's all we are. The penetration is low, less than 50%. So a couple of things that we do in building penetration and per capita, we use a simple framework called are our brands being relevant to the consumers? Are they available? And are they affordable? Now, if we deliver all these three, and I'll talk about an example, right? Then you will drive penetration, which means you get new consumers or you get consumers for new occasion, which means you get growth. It's a very simple algorithm. Now, relevance is a simple word, but the manifestations could be many. So am I relevant for different occasions? You want to have a dessert or you want to have a quick snack at home, semi-present in your fridge. So some of the latest advertisements that we have done is, do you have a Cadbury in the fridge? Yeah, and likewise, gifting is another occasion. So we need to develop gifting. So we started with Diwali, manifested to Rakhi, now Valentine, now some other festivals like Friendship Day, Chocolate Day. So you're trying to bring all these occasions together. Apart from that, the core of your brand, Cadbury stands for generosity, correct? So today, consumers are loving brands that have a purpose.
Really?
I'll give you some examples of that, right?
Yeah.
So look at the last 3 years of the journey of our communication, our engagement with consumers on Cadbury or Cadbury Dairy Milk, right? We started with a nice ad, brother, sacrificing his new bat to give a kind of a gift for his sister on Diwali.
Sure,
yeah?
sure.
Then we went on to not just a Cadbury ad.
Correct.
Right? Version 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
We did a thank you bar. The first time we changed the logo of our bars to thank the COVID workers. And we did it in Q2 of 2020. So when we saw the amount of work they're putting in, we said this warranties a change.
Yeah.
Now, all this, at the end of the day, is not just storytelling, it's also about story doing. Correct. So IPL groundsmen, what we did with IPL last time, right? Giving them also a treat to say, we are not the lesser mortals here. We are also as important and a big part of the game that is so exalted in our country. Correct. So what is storytelling? Storytelling is you tell a story and you do nothing about it. But story doing is you also do something about it. So if you're feeling that the small retailers are really not getting there, are not really coming back, they're struggling. So can I give them a celebrity with artificial intelligence who they can make their own ad with? That was what Cadbury, not just a Cadbury ad 2.0 was.
Yeah.
A Cadbury, not just a Cadbury ad 1.0 was about showing them small retailers around them who you might not have bought an opticals from or you may not have bought a trinket from. How do you go back and help them buy a small thing, right? So this is what we call humaning, moving from storytelling to story doing, right? And brands with purpose, and our purpose is generosity. If you do it authentically and it's in your character of a brand, you do get results. So we believe one of the reasons for the accelerated trajectory in growth is because of penetration driven by relevance and out of these kind of actions. So we believe brands with purpose work.
No, I agree that you are positioning all your promotion with purpose. Fair enough. But is the consumer really driven by purpose at this point, at least in the Indian market? I'm not sure. I think we're still pretty price conscious, right?
Of course, price is most important. But so you can't charge a price for purpose. So they're not in dissonance with each other, right? So you're still charging the same price, but are you talking and doing something about the purpose of your brand is the way to look at it. So layer it on one another is not one at the cost of the other.
Right.
You're right. In India, price is so important. So there's no way we can walk away from that.
Yeah, and also, I mean, we are still not sophisticated consumers, right? So we're still looking at where will I get the best deal.
Okay, so the most sophisticated consumers also look at that. So
even in advanced markets.
So look at all the club stores in the US, right?
Yeah.
So they exist because of great deals.
That's true. That's true. That's true. So you're saying chocolates has been a great hit for you in the last few years, and you're seeing results even in 2023.
Yes.
Right? One question about your international portfolio, which is rather large, and I believe that Mondelez International is also looking at, focusing on their core categories of play and not getting distracted. So are you looking at getting any of your large established brands into the India market?
Yes, like we sharpened our strategic intent with a very sharp focus on chocolates, biscuits, and baked snacks.
Right.
We look at baked snacks also as choco bakery, right? So, and cakes and everything else, and which is what has been playing out for us. So we've got very healthy growth in chocolates, very, very healthy growth in biscuits. We launched...
In biscuits, your rock star would be Oreo, right?
It is. So let's say 2 years ago, we crossed $100 million. In fact, in our portfolio, it will be the fastest growing brand.
In India?
In our portfolio, in India.
In India, okay.
Globally, by the way, it's the first brand for us which crossed $4 billion last year. Oreo. So it's large, powerful, and growing. So I think it's a greatly loved brand. So it's got a very fundamental proposition, staying playful. And it's got a great play with recipes and ingredients. And it does some outstanding activation, right? So across the world and including India. So it's one of our big brands, and we believe there's a very strong future for that.
And what about the other brands and the biscuits category?
Okay, so look at so in biscuits today, the big one that we have played is the sandwich. Then we got a Bonvita biscuits, which we play in cookies. And then we launched a test launch, Trisbix, which is our first test and learn for savory biscuits, which is the crackers, right?
Right.
Now, both those are under incubation. So we get the mix right. So typically our test and learns last for more than 1 year, so 2 or 3 years, because we really need to sharpen the bundle and see what's working, what's not. We test 5, 6 versions of it, pull this out, pull that, mix and match. So once we finish that, we'll be very educated on what to do. Now, our repertoire of brands globally exist. The way we look at it is not brand that exists and bring it to India. What does the Indian consumer need? And hence, how can I fit any one of those brands? So we do have plans for some of those brands. And at the right time, we'll sort of,
Come on, can you highlight a few?
Unfortunately, at this stage, we haven't made up our minds completely.
Okay,
so
fair enough.
we still
fair enough.
have to.
Yeah, but we will expect something in this year? Or
See, today there's so much to do with our existing brands.
Yeah,
the trajectory that we have itself is huge. So we are asking ourselves a question, is what's the right time? So it could be now, it could be a little later, but surely in the near term.
And in the biscuits category, I wanted to ask you about, performance of, I don't know how you categorize it, but the likes of the Bonvita cookies and, are you seeing a lot of, uptake there?
Yeah, yes.
You are? Or
Yes, we are.
is that particular proposition still being tested?
It's being tested, but there's a good uptick. So we are sharpening the bundle, and we believe that's working. There's a little difference between Bonvita biscuits and Oreo biscuits. Oreo was launched significantly before Bonvita biscuits, right? So the stage that Bonvita today is what Oreo was maybe 6 years ago, right?
Sure,
It's a little unfair to compare both of them on their size and scale today.
Yeah.
We believe it will become big.
And crisp bakes.
Okay. Trisbix, that's our first test and launch in savory crackers.
And where are you test marketing
So we
this?
are testing it with one e-retailer.
Okay.
Initially, we tested it at one geography, but that didn't work because COVID happened.
Right.
So we had to shut that experiment.
Right.
So we restarted this entire thing again a few months ago.
Okay. Actually, I just wanted to check with you. I've recently learned that in terms of chocolate consumption, this chocolate phenomenon of having it as a dessert, having it as, festivities, is a new phenomenon in the north and east. But the south actually is quite big on chocolates, followed by the west. Is that actually accurate?
No. So the way we look at it, almost all parts of the countries are behaving similarly, because see, chocolate is not a native product, correct? It's not a native sweet.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have introduced it.
Yeah.
We were the ones who introduced the taste. Until today, we continue to define the taste of chocolate, right? So if you did all actions equitably across the markets, it shouldn't be so different, right? Now, obviously, there are certain states and geographies where there's a huge affinity for sweets. So if you go to West Bengal, there are sweets. So you will have a higher uptake of chocolates even there, right? So we do this wonderful festival called Cadbury Mishti there.
Yeah.
So for Poila Boshak, around 15 days before, almost thousands of retailers partner with us. They buy the Cadbury ingredients from us, and they make a Cadbury Mishti or a Cadbury sweets, all the ones that they have. And that's a very big festival. Pre-COVID, we used to have 50,000 people. It's almost like running a cricket match, coming for the finals of the best winning shop for that.
Sure.
So different markets behave differently. We don't think any one of them is up or down. Gifting actually is very, very strong in West and North, because the gifting culture agrees.
But they're gifting chocolates?
Yes, huge. See, we started the food gifting, right?
Yeah.
So many years ago. So gifting per se is large. So I think North and West has always been traditional strongholds for gifting per se, not as the category. East has become really big, and East has also redefined gifting in an all year round gifting. Okay. Otherwise, it happens towards events, whereas in East, the gifting is across the year. Okay. South is actually a little behind, not too far, a little behind on gifting as compared to West and North.
Okay. Oh, so they're not big gifters at the moment?
No, I'm sure they must be, but
not in the chocolate category.
May not be in the chocolate, maybe something else.
Okay. Deepak, I wanted to talk to you about this accelerator program for startups called Collab that you've talked about. Give me a sense in terms of, and I believe this is after US, India is the only market, right?
Yes.
So how did that idea get triggered within the system, and what are you looking to achieve with this?
Got it. So US started this program called Collab 2021. They are in the third set of cohorts right now and extremely successful, right? So Collab actually is a signature program from the US. It was launched in 2021. They are in the third set of cohorts right now. And we are the first market outside of US to put this out. So as the very name suggests, Collab is a collaborative program. Okay. This is not a Shark Tank where you're trying to pitch one against the other. here is India, which has got the largest ecosystem of entrepreneurs outside of the US. Right? And what we're thinking is, how do we help, as one of the snacking leaders, help, startup accelerators to see how we can really build this entire culture of innovation, new brands, new technology, new packaging, and everything else to do with snacking. So our fundamental belief is there's a lot of entrepreneurial energy there. We, as one of the snacking leaders with deep insights in the country, can actually contribute significantly to the startup ecosystem. So the way the program is designed, we will, of all the applicants, we will sort of take 7 of them, 5 to 7 of them, apart from giving them a grant, which is a small amount of $20,000, which may be relevant for them, but that's not the big piece. The big piece is a 12-week intensive engagement with them, where every one of our functional leaders will actually give 2 hours a week to actually coach or teach them on marketing, on sales, on manufacturing, anything that they have as ideas.
So this is a more altruistic endeavor, or is it a more, let's look at what innovations we can do in the snacking category for the future?
Bit of both. So it's also, more than altruistic, is a bit of giving back, right? So we are a part of this startup, we are part of the snacking ecosystem.
Okay.
A lot of startups there who can benefit from us, and not all those are competitors for us. Right? So how is it that we can build out a larger one, right? And maybe if some of them have bright ideas and they want to partner with us, right? At the end of the program, we have an event where we'll have venture capitalists, private equity people who will come in and actually sit and see their business plans and idea. And we'll also be in the room. So, it's an open system for anybody to sort of feel interested in investing in them.
Get it. So I've got your collab bit. I want to talk a little bit about distribution. Deepak, I remember when you took charge of Mondelez, one of your key focuses was actually revamping the entire distribution strategy, and you did it quite successfully, within like a year and a half or so of taking charge. I have to check with you on why is it that there is no real competition to Cadbury's? Is it because of your because chocolates is such a difficult category to actually distribute, and you have to provide the Visi cooler, and you're spending about 8,000 to 10,000 per store, and hence you need deep pockets. Is that why it's difficult for international brands who are entering this market, or even Indian brands who are attempting to make a mark in the chocolate category, not performing as well as, let's say, Cadbury, and also the fact that you've been consistent and been here for 75 years, so you're top of mind recall?
That's the point. So see, it's unfair for us to compare somebody who's been around for 5, 10 or 15 years versus 75 years. See, 75 years brings a lot, right?
Yeah.
You understand the consumers for this category and their behavior significantly better, because but this is not a native category. It's a category that we have developed, right? So we understand the codes better than anybody else because we introduced the taste of chocolates, right? So that's one of the reasons, right? Now, expansive distribution is critical in chocolates because in a tropical climate, it melts, and hence you need cold chain. Now, cold chain investment per se is not an entry barrier because today capital is easily available per people, right?
Yeah.
It is about also having the product to go and occupy the key hot zone in a retailer. Why will a retailer give you his or her prime space in the shop if you're not throughputing enough business from there, correct? So the cost of coolers is not the biggest deal.
Okay.
Right? Anybody can put a cooler. Today there are enough people to fund this kind of an exercise, right? So, and in the larger scheme of funding, this is very small. It is about what is in it for the retailer to give off his prime property. Now you can go and say, I'll rent this space, but the amount of money he makes on profit from a fast rotating brand like ours is significantly more than any rent you can pay him. So it's a little bit about what is in it for the consumer. We have been around for 75 years. We got Lovemark brands. There's a lot about what's in it for the retailer. He also wants profits, fast rotation of his stocks, good turnover, right?
Yeah.
And if you go and ask them, I think they'll all tell you we are one of the better companies in terms of providing service because we have been pretty close to them. We understand their needs. We understand what happens in cooling. If you look at our coolers, they have a QR code. You can call. You can get a mechanic come and solve your problem if it's breaking down within 24 hours. So there's a lot associated with this entire suite of benefits we get to the consumer and customer. It's not easy for anybody to replicate in 5, 10 years, right?
Yeah.
But they're all doing a good job. And we like competition because all said and done, it helps grow the category.
Yeah, sure.
Right? It helps us also stay on our toes. It helps us improve our offering. Overall, it's good for the consumer. It's good for the customer.
But today, if I had to ask you in the India market, Cadbury as a brand across your different offerings, How much of the market do you control?
Our belief is 2/3 of the market, right? Now,
Not more than that?
66% share is what we think we have.
Okay.
But it's difficult because you can't exactly measure. These are all syndicated researches which you triangulate, right? Between various sources and say, okay, this should broadly be the range where we are. Since 2012, we haven't lost market share, so we have been there.
But, I mean, you'd be the best person to answer this. As a market, I mean, now we're getting more and more exposed to chocolates. But has India still moved beyond the milk chocolate? Like, is dark chocolate still, attempting its way into the consumer's heart? Are other, types of chocolates which are available in other markets still not hit the chord with the Indian consumer?
They're beginning to hit. Okay, so I think, see, it starts with milk chocolate. No market evolves. Like I said, it's not a native, right? So it's not that every mom at the home knows how to make a chocolate. Whereas likely every mom at home in many of the other countries in Europe would know how to make a chocolate, right? So it's not native. So we are adopting that, correct? So it starts with milk. Eventually, as you premiumize, it will get to, let's say, silk. It's a very nice, fine way of having. Silk is as good a chocolate as any in the world. And then it gravitates towards dark. And in dark, there's a journey. There's a journey from 50% cocoa to 70% to, higher percentages than that. So this takes time. And that's an evolution of the consumer. We believe now is the time for dark. So over the last 2 or 3 years, dark is really becoming relevant, salient in the minds of consumers. And we really doubled down on our offerings on Boneville and the way we're advertising that, and you'll see a lot more action in this field.
Tell me, Deepak, for Mondelez in India, your rural play would be not that critical, right? As, let's say, your mass market play and your premium play.
Now, yes. So once upon a time, 5 years ago, we were 12% from rural. Now we are 20. 20 is salient.
20% rural?
20% of my business comes from rural.
Wow, okay.
That's large.
Yeah, that's
and growing.
large.
And even today is growing higher than urban.
Okay. But then the question is then, what is your assessment of the rural story? I'm getting a lot of conflicting views on the rural story and the revival of the rural story. Apparently, rural consumption is not doing well.
Yeah, so 3-4 things that happened. First is inflation. And obviously, it's come and hit rural consumers hard. Second is, for example, people who are cattle breeders, who the milk flush season was very poor because of the lumpy skin disease that the cattle had.
Sure.
So that came in the way.
Yeah.
Now people are talking about El Nino, and that can completely destroy the monsoons. And so they are in distress. There's no taking away from that fact, correct? And hence, some of the government policies like Manrega, skilling, the new and let's say the doubling down on the skilling of people is good, because that will generate jobs, that will help them to stay employed, and there's a livelihood beyond the Manrega that they get, right?
Right.
So outlook can be mixed, depends on which category you are. And outlook has to be seen because it's still evolving. We don't know if El Nino comes. If El Nino doesn't come, there's a good monsoon, we'll be in a far better space. But if El Nino does happen and there's not such a good monsoon, then I would say that there is going to be significantly more distress than today. And it's evolving differently for different players because of the context, right? So we were small in rural and we are growing. So right now for us, as we get into more and more villages, last year for the first time we crossed 100,000 villages that we supply directly. Yeah. And crossing 100,000 villages is not easy because we need to have an end-to-end cold chain. I can't just put a cooler at the retailer. So my sub-distributor, super distributor, their trucks, their transportation, all of it needs to be cold chain enabled.
That's why I'm asking the question, because you've given me 20% coming, but it's more volume. You're looking at volume than value, right? Because I'm assuming that there are smaller packs, bite-sized packs. So is the effort that a company like yours puts into rural penetration worth your time?
Yeah, it's a good payback. It's a very, very good payback. See, look at it like this. 70% of the population still is in rural. And for sure they'll come out of, or for sure they'll get more affluent.
Yeah.
Correct? So there is a time to go there. We think today is a sweet time to go there, right? So I think they are. So we are one of the countries which has elevated people out of the poverty faster than anybody else. So as people come out of the poverty into the consuming class, right, is the best time to be, right? So we do believe it's a very good investment. 2, it's a myth that, it is super expensive. Your cost to serve can be expensive.
Sure.
But those retail shops are small, so you don't spend so much of money on merchandising inside and POS, so you save money elsewhere, right? So if you look at delivered end-to-end, door-to-door cost, right, in terms of serving the rural market and the urban market. There are gives and takes, but it squares off. But still, an urban market would be more profitable because we have more premium products here. Yeah. But then that's the future. Today, at least 50% of these villages want to sell silk.
Really?
So you're now putting up coolers.
People are able to afford silk.
Now we have more than 100,000 coolers in the rural market. Why? Because they want silk. So what we need to be clear about it, we aren't selling a luxury bag. We are selling a silk which is 65 to 85 rupees.
Yeah.
It is still a premium indulgence for them, but it's not like you're spending a few thousand rupees, right? So it is premium, but it's affordable in the sense that the unit prices are small.
And if you talk about your premium portfolio, how much would that contribute?
1/3.
1/3. And
so we look at it very simply put. Yeah. So ballpark, we should have an affordable, mainstream and premium product equally distributed. Now at times one will be higher, one will be lower, but they'll operate in the zone of 30 to 40%.
But when everybody's talked about growth, right? And everybody's talked about volume growth. The key word is always volume growth. How would you critique the value growth?
Okay, so in an emerging market with low penetration and low per capita consumption, there is a premium on volume growth because you want to drive consumption. That's when people will like your product. That's when they will come back to buy it. That's when you increase penetration. That's when you grow, correct? So in an emerging market, or let's say a developing market like India, we attach a huge premium to volume growth. So if I were to get, let's say, $100 from growth, and so 90 is coming from value and 10 from volume, I'll be very unhappy compared to 90 coming from volume and 10 coming from value. So we would like volume growth to be really fine, because then it tells you more consumers are liking and consuming your brand.
Okay, fair point. Let's talk a little bit about how you and the company has navigated through all the macroeconomic factors that have been impacting the industry. And especially in the last 3 years, your key learnings of what you had to transform within the company to get the machine to be more agile, to kind of take on all these macroeconomic factors. Inflation, just your rising input prices. Of course, now they're a bit more in control than, let's say, a few months ago. How have you handled, all of that and the future headwinds that are going to be hitting the industry?
So what we realized, if you look at it 5 years ago, we were hit by demonetization.
Yeah.
Then came GST.
Yes.
Then in between, it's not a disruption, but it was a different way of doing business, correct?
Yeah.
Then happened COVID 1.0, 2.0.
Yes.
Almost threatened the 3.0, but somewhere we escaped out of that.
Absolutely.
Then happened a war.
Yeah.
Then happened a commodity super cycle, right?
Yes.
And then a supply chain constraint. So we have seen it all over 5-6 years. So what's clear is, what somebody said to me very nicely, the slowest pace of change that you'll ever see in your life is what you're seeing today. If you think tomorrow is going to settle down, it won't. It's going to become even more disruptive. It's going to be even more fast, correct? So what's critical is, irrespective of the disruption, what are the learnings you take and what will stay with you? So to me, 4 or 5. First one is you need to plan for disruption. It doesn't matter how it comes. You need to know if you are impacted 10, 20, 40 or 50%, what are you going to do? So you don't freeze at that time. Okay. So this can be done even without the crisis. So you should be doing it now before the next crisis. The second is, how do you build resilience in your organization versus only efficiency? We're all companies who always build P&Ls on efficiency.
Correct.
How do you get more efficient? How do you get more efficient? Now came COVID and said, if you had stocks closer to the market, maybe it's inefficient because you had higher stocks, but you would have escaped because the movement between two districts was stopped, correct?
Correct.
So somewhere it tells you there is a premium for resilience versus, I'm just giving you a simple example.
Fair point, yeah.
Third, you said it, mindsets and behaviors. So today we are placing a premium on resilience, resourcefulness, collaboration, empathy, agility. Some of the things that we believe would have been there in our consideration list before, right? But we might have not really focused so hard or doubled down on them, right? So now today, these are very big mindsets and behaviors we want in our team. So that's one more thing we're taking. What we realized in every one of the disruption, planning and strategy, everybody gets it right. But there's a premium on execution. How do you execute the strategy, right? I'll give you a simple example. When COVID 1.0 happened, lockdowns happened, we realized that the central government had given the control to 720 district magistrates. So there's no point doing advocacy there that you need to actually be selling your products, right? So I still remember 24th March was the lockdown. 4th of April, 5th of April, and 6th of April, our entire Salesforce team were trained 3 days before saying, this is how you will go and ask for permission from the district magistrate or the police commissioner. And in just 3 days, we had more than 400 districts we had permission. That is the premium on execution. Everybody would have had a strategy, but how would you be able to execute, right? So that's one more thing. And the last thing that we learned is P&L alone is not enough. A strong balance sheet and a strong cash position is super important during any of these crises. So those would be my 5 learnings from, and it doesn't matter what's the next crisis. If you embrace some of these and a few others, I think you should show up well.
The other thing is that all companies now are talking about sustainability models, right? And reducing carbon footprint, including yours, right?
Yes.
There's a big play on that. So as I sit as an observer, it makes me feel very good that companies are being so conscientious and are almost angels and saviors. But the fact of the matter is, when you actually do a deep dive and look at a lot of corporations, we talk about this, companies, global CEOs spout a lot of gyan, but when you look at the execution, you may say it, including companies who have called us all back to work, right? We have quick commerce, we have quick in terms of grocery, in terms of food, in terms of so many other things, that our roads are cluttered with bikers. And as a consumer, I'm equally responsible in this play because I'm using it. Corporations are equally responsible for this because they are also supplying their material on it. Right? Corporations have called their employees back. So are we really, really bothered about the climate, or is this just a public spiel? And this is not a question directed to Mondelez, it's a question directed as an industry.
Yeah. So I will answer it with the lens of Mondelez, right? So, but honestly, we have been passionate about this, right? So in 2016, as a team, I remember just in the next room, which is our canteen, we were having a town hall and asked the team saying, wouldn't you want to be water and carbon positive? And there was a lot of excitement about it. They said, yes, but tell us how can we do that, right? So then we went and took some steps. We got a water positive certification in 2019 Jan. We got Scope 1 and Scope 2 certified as carbon positive again in Jan of 2019, correct? At that time, this hullabaloo of carbon emissions was there, but it wasn't as accentuated as today. We're talking 2018 when we actually went for 16 when we started. 2018 we got the certification, right? So we have been passionate about that. So we till last year we had 46% of our factories being powered by renewable energy.
Okay.
We just are getting permissions for 2 more. This will take us well beyond 60. So then we are removing and eliminating fossil fuel from our entire bit. We do cocoa farming. When we do cocoa farming, we grow 33 lakh saplings in our nurseries every year. And those trees are planted by us. So in the concept of carbon offsetting, all the carbon that these trees will, when they grow up and take out from the atmosphere, will be offset with my emissions, right? So that's one aspect. And look at plastics. So we were amongst the first companies 4 years ago to become 100% EPR compliant. So our plastics, if I put in 5,000 tons, am I bringing back 1,000 tons? Not my own brand, any other brand. And what am I doing with it?
Yeah.
So from there to today, 4 years we have been compliant, 100% plastics brought back. And from zero being recycled of that, we are now 65% being recycled. The rest of it was, originally 100% of it was being incinerated. So now we're actually recycling 65. Now this is how you can be intentional. We are amongst the original signatories to the India Plastic Pact. We have funded this Ocean Capital Fund, which is a capital aid fund for who funds technologies to clean up plastics in the environment, right? So we are very passionate about this, and not just in one field, across.
No, agreed. I'm not taking away from what you're trying to do. But don't you agree with my larger point?
Okay, now see, personal commitment to this. Now, if you ask my son, one of his passions is environment. So he gets very disturbed when, people are not responsible about their own carbon footprint. He gets very disturbed when they're disposing multi-layered plastics irresponsibly, correct? That's great news because, the Gen Z who's now coming out of school, he's in the 12th grade, right? So Gen Z who's coming out of school is actually significantly more concerned about this than we were at that age and time, right? So hopefully positive things around the corner.
So last question before I let you go. This is a fun question, Deepak. So, this is also for the audience who's viewing this. I believe that Mondelez is hiring a Cadbury's chocolate taster. Are they looking at candidates from emerging markets as well? Because it's a great job.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Of course. So everybody welcome.
Yeah, but tell us a little bit about the job role, because it's a really fun job. I don't mind applying for it myself.
Please, you're most welcome. So, I mean, people who have a fine ability to, to discern small tastes, sensorials, nuances, right? Think of a tea taste, right? So, they are experts in tasting tea. It is just that, you don't want to necessarily consume what you're tasting there. Here, you can consume what you want to taste as well, right?
Yeah.
So, it's a fun job. We really want people who have great sensorial experts, and that will actually help us build these nuances with our consumers, because a lot of our consumers have an amazing appetite to really discern, texture, aftertaste, and the mouth feel, etc. Right? So we really want such people. So we are more than happy to recruit.
And last question, before I let you go for sure, is what do you envisage going forward as we see the world slowing down, different parts of the world, and India, of course, facing some of that, slow down as we tread on 2023. What are your key challenges as the captain of this big ship?
Yeah, so what we need to watch for is the inflation. It's still not behind us.
Yeah.
So to our mind, that is possibly the biggest watch out. And the second biggest watch out is we don't know what's around the corner. So every now and then we sit back saying this is behind us and something else comes. Correct? Just when COVID was going away, nobody expected a war, but it happened. So what we're very clear is there is something lurking around, hopefully not. But if it is, we just need to be clear that, okay, we have to fight one more battle and just be resilient for that. But from where we were 3 months ago to now, the outlook is a little bit more benign. It's not so terrible. So a lot of the economies didn't post that kind of decline in their GDPs. So it's looking good. The inflation in certain European markets is coming down. That's also good news, right? The Indian economy has stayed pretty resilient. Many people are now talking about whether have we decoupled ourselves from the rest of the world on the stock markets, etc., because our stock markets are behaving extremely differently, right? So there's a lot of positivity, and also what we are very energized with, if you ask me the personal question, is we are a consumption economy. We are a consumption country. So you can't go wrong if you're an FMCG. We aren't exporting products to other countries, right? What we need to be concerned about is the macro factors that come and hit our consumers or our supply chain.
Fair enough. On that note, Deepak, always a pleasure discussing chocolate snacks and all your core categories. All the very best to Mondelez, 75 years in India and still running supreme. More power to you, more power to Mondelez.
Thank you so much, Sonali. It's a pleasure chatting up with you as always. Hope you enjoy your chocolates and biscuits for today.